Hello everyone. I am Shilpa Bansal from Government High School Guru Nanakpura, Bathinda. Today I will teach you the first lesson of your book Economics. The first chapter name is Basic Concept and this chapter has been taken from class 10th. What are basic concepts? There are some words in economics which have special meanings. These words are called basic concepts. In the first, we will talk about national income. National income is defined as sum total of factor incomes, that is, rent, wages, interest, and profit accruing to the normal residents of a country for their productive services during a definite period of time. According to Dunberg, national income is the net factor income earned by the normal residents of a country in the form of wages, rent, interest, and profit in 1 year. National income is equal to domestic factor income plus net factor income. Gross domestic product means value of output produced in a country. It includes income of foreign multinationals. Now, what is the difference between GDP and GNP? GDP is equal to value of national output produced in a country plus income of foreign multinationals, and GNP is gross domestic product plus money flowing from foreign countries minus money flowing to foreign countries. What is gross national product? GNP is equal to gross domestic product GDP plus net factor income from abroad, and gross national income is similar to gross national product. It includes the value of all goods and services produced by nation's people whether in the country or not. Now, what is gross national income? It is equal to net national income plus depreciation, and net national income is equal to gross national income minus depreciation. Now the question arises, what is depreciation? The monetary value of an asset decreases over time due to use, wear and tear, or obsolescence. This decrease is measured as depreciation. How to calculate or measure a nation's income? At the time of calculation of national income, goods and services are multiplied by their prices. If the quantity of national products is multiplied by the current price, we call it national income. Second question is, what is per capita income? It is an important concept regarding the country's economic welfare or standard of living of people. Its definition is, per capita income is defined as the average income earned by the people of a country in a definite period of time. Example, the per capita income is just an average income. It does not mean that the income of every individual in the country is equal to it. The income of some individuals may be more than it or some have less than it. For example, per capita income of India in 1994-5 was rupees 8237, and that of Punjab it was rupees 68,998 in 2010 to 2011. Per capita income is calculated by dividing the national income by population. Its formula is per capita income is equal to national income over population. It is not necessary that an increase in the national income of a country will lead to an increase in the standard of living of people. Standard of living depends upon the per capita income. For example, suppose the real national income of a country increases by 4% per annum and there is rise of 4% population growth, then there will not be an increase in per capita income. It means there is no increase in the standard of living of the people or rate of economic development of the country. Rate of economic growth will increase only when there is a continuous growth of real per capita income. Now, the question arises, what is real per capita income? Per capita income at current prices is called real per capita income. Next concept we are going to talk about is consumption. It is used in two senses. In the first sense as a process and in the second sense as an expenditure. What is consumption? Consumption is the process of buying, using goods and services. It is a process by which a person uses the utility of a good in order to satisfy his wants. In the expenditure sense, consumption means total expenditure which is incurred on the consumption goods. Consumption is equal to income minus saving. Suppose the total income of an economy is rupees 2000 crore, out of which rupees 1500 crore is spent on the consumption of goods and services. Then it will be said that total consumption expenditure of an economy is rupees 1500 crores and savings are of 500 crores. In the words of Keynes, total consumption expenditure of an economy mainly depends upon income. Consumption is directly proportionate to income. With the increase in income, there is an increase in consumption. But increase in consumption is not as much as the income increases. It depends upon the propensity to consume, how much change in consumption will take place with the change in income. Now we will discuss marginal and average propensity to consume. First of all, we will talk about average propensity to consume. That is APC is equal to C over Y. C here is consumption, Y here is income. APC can be defined as consumption expenditure per unit of income. For example, when out of income of rupees 100 crore, rupees 80 crores are spent on consumption, APC is equal to 80 over 100 is equal to 0.8 or 80%. This implies that people spend 80% of their income on consumption and they save 20%. Now, what is marginal propensity to consume? The extra income we receive that we choose to spend on goods and services is called marginal propensity to consume. How to calculate MPC, marginal propensity to consume, is equal to change in consumption over change in income. Delta here shows change in consumption over change in income. If income increases from 100 crores to 200 crores, it means there is change of rupees 100 crore in income. And if consumption rises from 80 to 120 crore, then there will be change of consumption is equal to 40 crore. Therefore, MPC is equal to 40 over 100 is equal to 0.4 or 40%. Thus, 40% of the income is consumed. Let's talk about savings. After deducting consumption from income, whatever remains, it is called saving. Saving is equal to income minus consumption. According to Keynes, in fact, saving is more than consumption expenditure. If, for example, an economy is generating income worth rupees 2000 crores and its consumption expenditure is rupees 1500 crores, then savings will be of 500 crores. That is 2000 minus 1500 equal to 500 crores. Like consumption, saving is also the function of income. If income increases, saving increases, and if income decreases, saving also decreases. The relationship between saving and income is expressed by propensity to save. Propensity to save is of two types: average propensity to save and marginal propensity to save. Let's know about average propensity to save and marginal propensity to save. APS is the ratio between total savings and total disposable income. It increases when disposable income increases and vice versa. APS is equal to savings over disposable income. Average propensity to save, for example, if income is 100 crore and saving is 20 crore, then APS will be 20 over 100 is equal to 0.2 or 20%. It will be the APS. Now, marginal propensity to save is the percentage of the extra income that consumers save. Now, what is MPS? MPS is equal to change in savings over change in income. Now, calculate marginal propensity to save. If, for example, income increases from 100 crores to 200 crores, it means there is a change of 100 crores in income. Consequently, if saving rises from 20 to 80 crores, then there will be change of 60 crores. It means the marginal propensity to save will be 60 over 100, that is 0.6 or 60%. It indicates that 60% of the income is saved. Now we will talk about investment. What is investment? An addition to the capital is called investment. The part of income which is not consumed but saved for capital formation is called investment. Investment means increase in real capital which leads to generation of income. According to Professor J.R. Hicks, an addition in the capital stock is called investment. Here are two determinants of investment. First is MEC, marginal efficiency of capital. This is also known as rate of profit, and second is rate of interest. An investor, while taking investment decision, makes a comparison between MEC and rate of interest. When the rate of interest is less than MEC, investor makes more investment. When rate of interest is equal to MEC, he stop making any more investment. When rate of interest is more than MEC, no investment will be made. Now let's know the type of investments. Here we will talk about autonomous investment. It is that investment which is independent of level of income. It is not influenced by rate of profit. In fact, it is that investment expenditure that government incurs to promote the level of aggregate demand in the economy. Second is induced investment. It is the investment which depends upon level of income. It is influenced by rate of profit. With the rise in income and profit, the investment also rises and vice versa. As it is shown in the picture that with the increase in income, this type of investment is also increasing. As from income increases Y0 to Y1, investment has also increased from I0 to I1. In addition to it, there are other two types of investments. First is gross investment and second is net investment. Gross investment means total production of capital goods in an economy during 1 year is called gross investment. Gross investment is equal to net investment plus depreciation. Net investment results in capital formation after deduction of depreciation cost from gross investment. We can get net investment. Net investment is equal to gross investment minus depreciation. Next, we will talk about capital formation. What is capital formation? The part of income by which more production is possible than before is called capital formation. That part of income which is saved for investment, and as a result of investment capital goods are produced, an addition to capital stock is called capital formation. Have a look at the chain of capital formation in which with the high income there will be high saving, as a result of which high investment will be made, and then it will lead to high capital formation, high production and high employment, and result into high income, and it is a chain which goes on. Now, what are the types of capital formation? There are two types of capital formation: gross capital formation and net capital formation. Gross capital formation is equal to net capital formation plus depreciation, and net capital formation is equal to gross capital formation minus depreciation. Next topic is disguised unemployment. This occurs when more than the necessary numbers of people are employed for the specific work. Disguised unemployment is found in agriculture because of the lack of employment opportunities elsewhere. Similarly, disguised unemployment can be found in industry and offices as well. For example, a family whose all members are working in one shop or a small business, but which can actually be managed by fewer number of members of family. In this picture also, it is shown that more people are engaged in some activity than the actual number required. This extra number of people are disguised unemployed, as in the example it is given that a field requires 3 laborers but 6 are working, so other 3 are disguised unemployed. Now we will talk about the different types of unemployment. First is full unemployment, second seasonal unemployment, third frictional unemployment, fourth educated unemployment, fifth technical unemployment, sixth structural unemployment, and last is disguised unemployment. So, full employment. It is a situation in which all the workers who are capable and willing to work, they are getting employment at the reasonable wages. Unemployment, it is a situation in which all the workers who are capable and willing to work, they do not get employment or jobs. So, full employment does not include the adults. It doesn't mean that they should also have jobs. According to Professor Lerner, full employment is that situation in which all the people who are willing to work at current rates of wages and they get work without any difficulty. According to Professor Henson, full employment means non existence of involuntary unemployment. Now we will talk about voluntary unemployment. There are some people who are unwilling to work at the prevailing wage rate, or there are some people who get a continuous flow of income from their property or other sources and need not work. It is a national waste of human energy. Seasonal unemployment means limited need for a specific type of work to be performed during certain period of time. Structural unemployment occurs because of an absence of demand for a certain type of worker. This typically happens when there are mismatches between the skilled employers want and the skills that workers have. Now we will talk about the frictional unemployment. It happens when a person changes his job. He shifts from old job to new job. Let's read. The unemployment caused by the time it takes workers to search for a job is called frictional unemployment. Examples of frictionally unemployed people include new college graduates and people quitting a job and looking for something different or better. Now we will talk about inflation. What is inflation? Inflation signifies either the lowering of a value of a good or increase in price of a good. Here we can see in the picture, in the first one, the price of goods are same but the value of good has been changed, and in the second one the price of the good is increased. Now I will tell you the meaning of inflation. In economics, inflation is a rise in general level of prices of goods and services in an economy over a period of time. When the general price level rises, each unit of currency buys fewer goods and services. In a broad sense, inflation is that state in which the prices of goods and services rise on the one hand and value of money falls on the other. Now we will talk about the cost of inflation. First is uncertainty, less investment, decline in competitiveness, fall in real value of savings, menu cost, boom and bust economic cycle, potential fall in real incomes, cost of reducing inflation. Now, what are the definitions of inflation? According to Crowthers, inflation means a state in which the value of money is falling, that is, prices are rising. According to Pigou, inflation arises when money income is expanding more than proportionate to income earning activity. According to Professor Smelson, inflation occurs when general level of prices and cost are rising. Inflation is an increase in the quantity of purchasing power according to Gregory. Inflation is a stage of too much money chasing too few goods. Coolborn. What are the effects of inflation? Effect depends upon the speed of inflation and the nature of the economy. Rising prices of imports lowers national saving, redistribution of income and wealth, collapse of monetary system, adverse impact socially and politically, discourages investment and savings, higher interest income rate taxes. What are the solutions to inflation? The use of monetary policies, that is, open market operation, bank rate, etc. Increase in wages, salary should related to increase in productivity. balance of payment crisis could be addressed through import substitution and export promotion, which means imports should be curtailed and exports should be increased. Next is increase in productivity, especially in the agricultural sector through the construction of dams, irrigational facilities, and mechanization. Increase in foreign exchange earnings and reduction in imports. So, we will do the rest of the chapter in the next class. I hope this is clear to all of you. Thank you so much for sparing such a valuable time of yours. Thank you and regards.